welcome everybody to our latest Coffee with EMBL. This is in fact our 20th edition of Coffee with EMBL, which is quite a remarkable achievement. And to everyone who's here for the first time, a very warm welcome. We hope it's not your last. And to everybody else, welcome back. This is a very exciting opportunity for us to find out about what's going to happen in the future of EMBL. It's great, once again, that we have so many people registered. And I think I see already more than 100 people online at the moment, and probably more joining in, more than 200 people, including staff as well as alumni, and from countries all around the world. So it's just a great reminder that we are a truly global community. In addition to all the major countries in Europe, we have many people registered from outside of Europe, including the USA, Argentina, Japan, New Zealand, Nigeria, Qatar, Turkey, and possibly more. And we are really delighted to be a global community. So we also make available a live stream option, and I think Peter has done or will add a link to the transcription in the chat. So that gives you an option as well, which may be helpful to some people to follow what's being said in a transcript that's available in real time. So we're thrilled to have with us Edith Herd, who's the Director General of EMBL, as well as Jessica, the Head of Strategy, Nassos, who's a Senior Scientist in Genome Biology, and Rainer Pepperkoch, who's Director of the Science Core Facilities, as well as the Co-Chair of Planetary Biology. And they're going to be telling us all about the really exciting plans that they've developed for the next 5 years at EMBL. And as always, we want to have this as interactive as possible, and to open this up to be an occasion where we can find out what's going on, and where everyone who has a question can put your question in the chat or put your hand up. And as much as we can, we'll try to bring in as many people as we can to ask questions. But just to get us kicked off, before I turn to Edith, EMBL, as some of you may know, have prepared a really nice short video just advertising the exciting plans they have for the future. And we thought we'd kick off by showing that.
Just talk to us out. Here. Here. No, this is true.
So there's a nice warm up to hearing about this, and also I think Peter could also put in the chat a link for anyone who wants to download the details of the EMBL program. Then please do. We encourage you to read it. It's a fascinating read. There's also a shorter executive summary version. But rather than reading about it, let's hear about it from the Director General. So welcome, Edith, to Coffee with EMBL.
Hi, Angus. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm missing the kind of coffee stain bit of coffee with EMBL, but I guess on Zoom we can at least share ideas and gather questions from a more international community than if we were all sitting in the ATC lounge. So I wasn't actually sure whether you wanted to do this as a kind of, you asked me what's going on, Angus. I do actually have a few slides, so I can show.
So absolutely. So just before they show the slides, I think the first thing I want to say was on behalf of all the people here and the people who couldn't make it, congratulations. I think we're all super impressed. It's a fantastic read, the program, and I hope you take us the right way. That I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised that you could pull this off. So under your leadership, you've put together such an exciting, stimulating, and inspiring program. And the fact that so many people have registered and come to hear about it, I think just reflects how interested we are and how enthused we are to find out more about it and to learn as we'll come to in how we can help. So please do share the slides, and then we can carry on with the chat about it.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, well, thank you for the congratulations. Actually, it's very convenient that some of the people who really helped in making this happen, how did I pull it off? Actually, some of the people are in the same session. So, Jessica, Nassos, Reiner, this was a real EMBL community effort, and it was a lot of hard work by a lot of people across EMBL. So I just want to thank all my colleagues for, immense effort put in. It was epic. So I can tell you the secrets to the success. Although, success is relative. You'll see it's great to have an increase, but it's not quite as much as we would have wanted to do everything. But okay, I'm gonna just show a very few slides. So I just wanted to start with one slide, just saying that EMBL is really going strong, and it's only because EMBL is such an incredible organization, and building on everything that's been done over the decades, that we were able to dare to ask for funding for the new program. And I just wanted to give you a few of the most recent highlights that I'm sure you know about. The AI revolution. EMBL joined forces with DeepMind and made AlphaFold accessible to everyone. In fact, we even had DeepMind colleagues come to visit us last week, and that was really exciting. The new imaging center has opened, and it's already up and running. There's a lot going on, a lot of excitement, new projects, new approaches, and Rainer will be saying more about that later. And then I think one thing that we really worked on in the last few years, and this helped a lot with our member states, is to make Europe realize how much value they get from us, from our services in particular. So we did two big evaluations, one on the EMBL-EBI data services side, a BGRI report, and the other was our experimental services by Technopolis. And we were able to show that in both cases, we're incredible value for money, and we're really, really appreciated for what we deliver. For our experimental services, it's very hands-on. It's something that I think users really appreciate, to be able to learn, to get trained, and to understand what they're doing and to develop their projects on site. And then last but not least, we've also been quite active in the context of what's been happening to the planet, as our program is relevant to that. And we were observers at COP26 for the first time ever. And we actually built up a white paper that many people, I think, are aware of, and some even contributed to. So this is just to say EMBL is going strong, and there's a lot going on. On the research front, I won't even begin to tell you some of the great science we're doing. But so this is the new program. And indeed, for us, this is a new era. And I hope it's a new era for European science, and maybe even for global science. So it's a program that spans molecules to ecosystems, actually from atoms, because we obviously, as many of you know, we work on the atomic scale of proteins right through to understanding what they do in the context of populations, communities. And we really want to stretch out of our comfort zone. So the new program is designed to try and help us, molecular biologists, genomics experts, developmental biologists, try to move into some of the areas that normally we don't have access to, or we don't necessarily connect with, and really try and understand how organisms work in the context of the environment and, in their natural context. So this is obviously standing on the shoulders of giants. Darwin springs to mind, many others. But we believe that now we scientists have the tools to really try and understand how life works in its more natural context. And I'm still an active scientist, as Angus knows. We've exchanged on the kind of science that we need to rise up to. And for me, working on a topic that is, epigenetics, I realized very early on that if you don't think about organisms in a more natural environment, you can't really understand what's going on. So that's what this is about. It's about embracing the complexity and biodiversity that we have around us. And we want to bridge to different disciplines, areas, as I said earlier, that don't necessarily connect up with molecular biologists. So, the ecologists, the evolutionary biologists, the environmental scientists, people who are interested in new technologies and going from the approaches that we already use experimentally right through to data science and modeling to AI. And of course, this is very much mechanistic science. EMBL will always remain attached to understanding mechanism, but we believe that we can do this by interfacing with these other areas and studying both the model organisms we study, but also new model organisms or non-model organisms, and trying to understand how communities and populations of organisms behave and faced with, for example, new pathogens such as the virus we're facing right now. So this is it. It's very ambitious. But on the other hand, our member states acknowledge that if there's one organization that can rise up to this ambition, it's EMBL, because we are multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, we cross nations, and we're very collaborative, and we do research, but we also provide service and training, etc. And this is how we built it up. I just want to say that the new EMBL program is completely built on what we're doing now, and on the previous research that's already been done. And we're going to continue to do very fundamental molecular biology with this mechanistic approach that EMBL is known for, but we want to really try and stretch into these new areas. And to do that, we decided to develop these transversal themes in addition to, the sites and the units we have. And they're transversal because of the way the science is organized. It feeds on some of the science that's already going on. So infection biology, microbial ecosystems, human ecosystems, already areas that we have strengths in, and Nassos will be able to say a bit more about that. He's a typical example of someone who already was exploring some of these areas. Sorry, my cat's decided to invade. So this is what ecosystems are about. I have my ecosystem invading my space. So these new areas are very transversal in the disciplines that they cover, and also in the geographic area that they cover. And I should say that the new program is transversal in connecting up our different sites more than ever before. So our transversal themes are located across all the different sites. Planetary biology is one of the big new areas. As I said, we want to stretch out into nature. So, and here you can see there are people in these transversal themes that come from all different sites. And I'm just showing you the co-chairs here who are the animators of this. But, they bring together a whole group of people across EMBL. And Nassos is a perfect example of this because he's actually a co-chair both of microbial ecosystems, but also of infection biology. And Rainer Peppercock, for example, is a co-chair of planetary biology. So they'll be able to tell you more about these areas in detail. And this is the last slide I wanted to show, but which really highlights the fact that this is a new era for EMBL, not just in the kind of research we're going to do, but also in the way we do it. So interacting with our member states, trying to think of the new services we need to deliver. And for example, we're going to have these mobile lab services, and Rainer, I'm sure, will be happy to tell you more about those. but also some of the new data services, also, for example, setting up culturomics and biobanking, and that's something that Nassos is in charge of. New types of training, training PhDs, postdocs as ever, but also engineers, trying to have more of an outreach and public engagement component, and also trying to do more innovation and translation than ever before. And last but not least, it's also about a new era of EMBL as a modern workplace. So we really want to build up what we do in various parts of the organization, be it, our IT, open science, which has always been, one of EMBL's philosophies, but we want to do this in an even more concerted way. But also some of the areas that I think you already know about, green EMBL, environmental sustainability, and equality, diversity, and inclusion, which for us is a key element in the way we want to make sure EMBL is run in the future. I will stop sharing and happy to answer any questions and give you any more information that I can.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. That's just what we were hoping for. Just to start off, there are questions already. We'll bring people in. I have to say, in reading the program, I found lots to be excited about, lots of inspirational things. But I just wanted to ask you, first of all, what do you find most exciting about the program? What would you see you're most passionate about delivering?
Well, I think I have to say, every aspect of it is very precious to me. Maybe the most important thing for me was that it was built up on what EMBL represents. And the most exciting part for us, for everyone who was involved, I think, was being able to see how there's so much talent at EMBL that is already tuned in to making this work. So that's one big thing that really mattered to me. From a scientific perspective, as I said right at the beginning, I think this is the time. We cannot carry on doing molecular biology in the way that we have done over the years. I think we need to stretch out of our comfort zone. And I think that this is what this program aspires to do. And I hope that, in the years to come, we'll see how easy it is for that to happen. And I'm sure I could ask Nassos or Reinsch to say a few words about this, but they're already doing it. It's actually easy to step out of your comfort zone and think about, life out there. So for me, that's the most exciting part. And it started almost as a twinkle in my eye when we started to talk about it 3 years with the colleagues at EMBL. But very rapidly, it was easy to sort of put together and write up. I mean, I say easy, it was blood, sweat, and tears. And Jessica is an absolute saint in having pulled it off. But in fact, the intellectual input and the energy and ambition was very natural coming from EMBL. So I'm really excited, and I'm so happy that we can just launch it, and I can hopefully watch it all happen in years to come.
That's great. I was going to ask how difficult it was, but you've told us it's easy, so that's
no, it wasn't. It was excruciating. I should say, I have to say, and this is on the record, it was mission impossible. In the beginning, when people said to us, how are you going to do it? Not so much the program, but the indicative scheme. Many people said to me, both inside EMBL and outside, you're completely mad. You can't imagine asking for so much more money and for such a big program. My answer was, we're just asking for what we deserve. This is how much it costs. If the member states want to fund us, they will. And EMBL deserves it. EMBL, I think, has been underfunded over the last 10, 15 years. And this is an opportunity to try and make sure that our member states value us. So it was mission impossible, and we didn't get to what we were asking for, as you probably know, but we managed to get, close to it. And I hope we're on the right trajectory to make sure that EMBL is sustainable in the future.
Fantastic. I think we all here, certainly I'll speak for myself, but I think for many other people who all feel that basic research is desperately underfunded. And is actually, that's one of the most important things that we're very keen to help spread that message and help lead organizations like EMBL set the example to justify why more money should be put into basic research. Fatima, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to ask Edith a question?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, congratulations for the program and for the increase achieved, and congratulations to all the people behind this. This is really great. I just was wondering, if there are any plans of kind of physical expansion of EMBL to accommodate to the new themes that are part of Life in Context. So you're going to have at least 2 new programs, these data science and theory programs. You have so many new things that I wonder, how are you going to do it? No, are there new partnerships being created with institutes experts in mathematics or in ecology research, or how?
All of that. So yes, indeed, this program is about evolving into these new areas. So first of all, Fatima, as you know, EMBL has a natural system for this because we have our turnover. So, most 44% of group and team leaders move on in any 5-year period. So it's very easy for us to bring in new talent and to evolve into some of the new areas, transversal themes. We don't call them programs anymore. We call them themes. But the idea is not to set up new units or new sites. We're not expanding physically, although we do have these mobile labs. So it's a surreptitious way of expanding. We're going to expand on wheels and on steam. So we're going to send out these mobile labs and containers so that, all countries who want to can benefit from us. But we're not going to go beyond the host sites that we have right now. I think it's very clear that we need to focus our resources and to make sure that we deliver with what we have. And that was very clearly said also to council. It was bad enough sort of fitting EMBL into the budget we had in the last indicative scheme. So in this indicative scheme, we want to be very careful to not be seen as expanding. However, setting up these new areas was easy because, as I said, we already had the people, the experts who were there and who wanted to do it. So data sciences, we have Jan Corbel and Rolf Artweiler are the co-chairs. And for them, it's very easy to go and use, our 6 different institutes as an interface then to make sure that we're useful to as many people as possible, both internally and externally facing. For theory, we've already got a sabbatical program. So we're bringing in people from many different countries who are physicists, mathematicians, and they're spending time with us. And hopefully we'll spend time in some of these institutes as well. So it is expansion intellectually and in what we do, but not in our sites and the number of staff that we have. I mean, there will be a bit of growth, but it won't be new sites. Yeah.
Okay. So just a second question, if I may.
Okay. Well.
No. Okay.
I'll ask later. Okay.
Sorry, Fatima. I just there's a lot of people with hands up, so I was keen to do it. So I'll just ask people in the order I saw the hands listed. So the first is Luis in Doha in Qatar. Welcome from Qatar.
So Luis Saraiva was an alumni. I was an expert fellow at the EMBL-EBI and the Sanger from 2013 to 2015. And since 2015, I'm a group leader at Sidra Medicine in Doha. So I actually have a quick question regarding the new program. It goes straight to my heart because I was trained in Portugal as an ecologist and a microbiologist. So I'm really happy to see that EMBL is expanding into this, even though I kind of left that area. But I'm just wondering I haven't read the white paper, to be frank, but I'm wondering if you have any plans to actively include or actually to have some sort of mobile outstations in the countries that are the gatekeepers of the big biodiversity of the world. And in a lot of cases, they're also the big agricultural producers, such as, Brazil, for example, some African countries, some Southeastern Asian countries. I'm wondering if you have any plans to actively engage those communities and scientists from those countries.
Well, thanks a lot for the question. I mean, the program was ambitious enough as it was. I think if we had said that we were going to send mobile labs to Brazil or to other continents, probably that wouldn't have worked so well. So the short answer is no, we're not going to send mobile labs to other continents. However, we will be engaging in a global way, as you know, with the EBI. It's, where many of the actions that EMBL does and the services we provide and the research we do is global and international. I was wondering whether actually Nassos, who's online, wants to say a word, because he comes, straight from that angle of the microbes and So Nassos, over to you. Maybe you want to say a word about potential links up to these other continents who could be the gatekeepers.
I don't see it in the immediate run, but yes, in the long run, this could happen. And there's a lot of interest on microbiomes across different countries, from microbiomes that live in humans to microbiomes that live in the soil or in marine microbiomes. And I think that would definitely be a point to link with research on those countries.
Great. The next person with the hand up is Manuel in the EBI.
Hello, and thank you very much for the presentation. I've been following with enthusiasm the evolution of this topic since you arrived, even before. And I appreciate a lot your excitement and your personal support and enthusiasm into this topic. I have a question about a topic, an aspect of this program that I've always been encountering, is that there is a kind of a methodological divide between, on one side, a reductionist, a mechanistic approach of molecular ecology. We study genomes at single species level, functional. The farther we go is metagenomics. And on the other hand, a more holistic, complex approach, which is holistic, is ecology, biodiversity. And there is a gap between the two of them. And every time we try to approach, we fall into one of those fields. And in between, there's almost no communication. And there's a big danger into that, because if we approach only from the syntactic controllability of reductional systems, is very functional. We can do a lot of things, but we don't reach the potential of the significance of the questions that we are trying to answer. And on the other hand, we have such levels of complexity that we cannot handle. So in this new area, for this new program, scientific program, how is there a strategy to engage people from these other fields that are more holistic, like ecology, global biology, agroforestry, so on, so on?
Absolutely. I mean, that is the goal, because EMBL can build these bridges. And I mean, if I cite just one example of a project that we're including now in the new program, it's with colleagues in Spain, ecologists, who are seeking to understand the molecular basis of tipping points in arid situations. So these are ecologists who want to work with us. We have many examples like that. Actually, maybe I can call in my other colleague, Jessica, who helped set up the program, and she could say a little bit more about how we want to build those bridges. Because I think, Manuel, this is exactly what we hope EMBL can do. That's why, in a way, the program was so important. Yeah.
So perhaps we'll come to Jessica in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, but obviously Jessica or Nassos or Rainer, any of the other guests, I mean, feel free to jump in if you know.
Well, I think for this question, I'd like Jessica to just say
okay, cool, yeah, perfect.
Because actually that was very much at the heart of how we designed the program. Yeah.
Yes. So very quickly, I mean, so engaging with these other disciplines is central actually to what we want to achieve. And we already have a lot of interest within our member states, but also beyond, where people have seen the program and they, understand, they realize that different disciplines have to come together. So as Edith said, there's a project on arid soils that we're working on with ecologists, where they, to uncover the mechanisms by which soils dry out and what are the tipping points by which it affects biodiversity. They actually want to profile microbial communities in the soils and do metagenomics, metabolomics. So this is where you need the theoreticians to come in and look at models, look at the data and try and come up with models. So you can see how that's quite a small project, how multidisciplinary this is. But it'd be great to also engage alumni in helping us reach out to these other communities and, find out people who are interested in tackling these problems, especially when we also launch the TREK project and need your help with that as well.
Great. And in fact, that was one of the things we'll come back to very, very shortly, is the question of, as an alumni community, how can we help? And that will be a general question from the community. But just with a lot of hands up, Thomas in Milan, our co-host and active colleague in the Alumni Association. What's your question?
So yeah, I mean, this is all great. I mean, it's already shaping up like a great discussion. So I mean, I had a curiosity because I mean, of course, there is a lot of other scientific organizations globally that have quite elaborated plans. I think about scientific societies and stuff. So I was wondering, how much thought and coordination and in which way was given in building the program in terms of looking at what other actors, global actors in Europe and elsewhere are doing. I think that because, we are always thinking about EMBL being like some sort of an ecosystem, but it lives in an even bigger ecosystem.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. It's clear that we want to break away from EMBL being just its own ecosystem, and we want to link it up to others. And that was actually one of our strategies, to link up to European member states. So, for example, one of our very earliest partners is EMBL, the European Marine Biology Consortium. And there are many other consortia that we linked up to very early on because they saw the value of us. There is no other, to my knowledge, there's no other program that is designed to bring molecular biology to this topic of, I would say, molecules, ecosystems, planetary health. So we are trying to partner up with as many other initiatives as we can in order to, on the one hand, provide synergies, and on the other hand, ensure that there isn't redundancy. And it was actually very easy. We were a bit nervous at the beginning that some partners might say, "Oh, this is our area, don't come in." But actually, everyone embraced us with open arms, or pretty much everyone. So it's actually that's been one of the most exciting things. And I mean, Jessica was a witness to many, many of these conversations where people say, "Wow, so EMBL, you're interested in this area?" And it's like, "Yes, we want to help." And they say, "Oh my God, we've been waiting for this for so long." So yes, it's really great. But of course, there are many areas that we haven't connected to, and we can't do everything. So we're doing it progressively, but strategically. And one day we can have another whole coffee session on how this kind of strategy is rolled out. Jessica can tell you more.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Great. The next person is fantastic, by the way. There's so many people are asking questions. The whole point of these meetings is to be interactive with events. And the fact that we can interact with people simultaneously in all corners of the globe, I think is just brilliant. Jonathan, you're the next person.
Yes. Hello, Edith. Thank you very much for that presentation. And so I was going to ask a conceptual question, but it covers and overlaps with what Manuel said. I just make one comment on that. So I did my PhD on protein folding with Tom Creighton. AlphaFold is wonderful. I recognize that. But I would argue that it hasn't gone any way answering the question of how proteins fold. It's very good at modeling, but it hasn't actually added anything to our understanding. So I hope that in the EMBL program, there's going to be some reflection about how we're actually going to increase understanding. So instead, I'll ask a very practical question. So because you want to connect all these different disciplines, and an awful lot of that's going to be going through data, and that does require adhesion to the standards that EMBL is being so involved in, course, life, fair data, all the rest of it.
Program.
Bench scientists, when they hear that, when they hear about data management plans, when they hear about interoperability, run away. So are you imagining mechanisms to try and engage bench scientists in that type of initiative?
Program. At EMBL, as I said, it is part of our kind of underlying philosophy. So we have a whole open science strategy that is geared to try and make sure everyone is on board for data sharing and open access. There's already an awful lot of people who are on board. So perhaps differently to other institutes, the bench scientists at EMBL don't tend to run away from that because it's kind of always there. But I completely acknowledge what you're saying. There has to be an effort to try and, educate or just, convince people that there's so much to be gained from this. And I think it's already happening, but EMBL should be helping to lead the way. So that's why we have the Data Sciences Program already, or Data Sciences Center, as we're calling it, Action. And that's also why we set up this Open Science Working Group and strategy. So we can send links. There's already information about this. And I completely agree. This is what we have to strive for. I think the pandemic has really shown us that sharing data is useful and drives discovery. And we're making the most of that because, again, EMBL-EBI was key to making that data sharing possible with the COVID-19 data portal. So yeah, I take on board what you're saying. It is a challenge, but I think if there is an organization that can rise up to it, it's EMBL. And by the way, I haven't forgotten that we're making a date to talk about all the other stuff. Great.
I promise we'll get to everyone who's got their hand up. I also wanted to bring up a great question that was posed in the chat by Sigrid, who's been a very great participant in the Coffee with EMBLs before, who was asking, are there plans for any citizen science programs which have been very beneficial in many environmental and ecological initiatives? Edith or Jessica, perhaps one or both of you would like to comment on that.
Program.
Answer this one,
Jessica.
So outreach, as we're calling it, and public engagement is actually a very central part of the new program. And the focus for our outreach work is actually, we do a lot of this already, very much around our local sites in Heidelberg, in Hinxton, Barcelona. But now we want to actually bring EMBL's science out to member states. And so accompanying the TREK project that I talked about, which is going to go around the European coastlines, not only would that be about research and bringing EMBL's services to scientists and collaborators, but also there's going to be a public engagement outreach on accompanying that as well. So every time the mobile lab stops, there will be activities around, with schools, with the public, and getting them really involved in EMBL science as well. So yes, it's very important. It's very important even for our scientists to they want to engage with the public and talk about what they do. So and
maybe just to say on the topic of citizen science, where the citizens are actually doing the experiments, for example, with TREK, we have a big consortium that includes Tara Oceans. And in there is a citizen science component, which is about, providing the equipment so that, for example, every boat can go and sample and produce data. So there is a citizen scientist component to the program as well. But it's not as widespread, I would say, as our outreach component. We're not going to go out and get all public to join forces with us. We're doing it in a kind of targeted way for some of the key projects or flagship projects that we're setting up.
So Sigrid, as you may know, is working, I believe, with NASA and has a lot of direct experience in leading public engagement, and is someone amongst many other people here in the alumni community who are very enthusiastic to share advice and to help do that. I mean, one of the things I was wanting to raise in that regard is just how exciting it's been this year. I'm sure many people here have watched with interest the unfolding of the James Webb Telescope deployment, which was a super exciting example of big science, big expensive science being made relevant, I think, and also communicated and shared very effectively through a whole range of channels. And I think that's one of the things, if you don't mind me saying, I think EMBL could learn from and perhaps expand its plans for, finding strategies for broad engagement and spreading the excitement about the wonderful thing you're doing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Angus, that really is, part of the communications aspect as well is very much part of our on our radar. And I should say that, EMBL was at the heart of a wonderful project that captured people's hearts, Tara Oceans. And I think, it's great to be able to send rockets out into space. But I would say that there's also so much you can discover on this planet, which is the only one we have for now. And so through Tara Oceans and the mobile labs, we really do want to make sure that we captured the public's attention, and that when you switch the radio on in the morning, you hear about EMBL as often as you hear about NASA. But Sigrid, we'd love to hear what your advice and whether there are indeed things that we could be thinking about in the next 5 years. So absolutely.
So I've unmuted myself. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So, a lot of citizen science just has to do with, public data. It's part of your public initiative in open science is actually generating data that people are allowed to analyze. Public analysis of making the data publicly available that anybody can analyze, that's a huge thing. And then generating analysis working groups that can go along with that. So if one of the problems with any molecular approach is the generation of plastic waste, which is kind of goes against any kind of ecological initiative. Having experiments that are publicly available that anybody can analyze will help in terms of making all of that data much more reusable. And so the whole initiative of reusability of data is really critical, and how to be able to compare across different data sets. And machine learning approaches, which will cut down on plastic waste. So so my biggest question is, how do you target experiments so that you don't generate as much plastic waste and contribute to the problem? And the citizen science approaches, which are at all levels. They're not just citizens collecting samples, but citizens actually analyzing data. And that's been a big approach with NASA. In terms of reusability of data from telescopes, et cetera, astronomical approaches. So I really would love to hear, how that can work. And that can go all the way down to the grade, the primary grade school levels where you have students participate in experiments and developing experiments that they can do in their classrooms so that they learn how to, understand what data is. We have a big problem right now in the U.S. in particular with people who really having no clue about, the biology and, what viruses are and what vaccines are and, all of that. And so how to, the wonderful thing is to be able to create programs that can translate down and get to really broad audiences very quickly.
Right. I just again to say we'd love to engage with you. We, on the one hand, between EBI and the data that is stored and made available to everyone through portals, and on the other hand, through projects like Tara Oceans, where we actually bring, school kids and teachers onto the boat so that they can actually see how experiments are done. I think, this is exactly what we would like to be able to do more of. So, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks. Great, we're having so many discussions. We've still got a lot to get through, and I'm sorry for the people who've had their hands up for so long. Let's see if we can have a couple of quick questions. Abel, you're in Cambridge. You've had your hand up for some time. Sorry to keep.
Yeah, thank you, Angus. Yes, I'm an alumnus from EBI. I was there from 2001 to 2007 before leaving to kind of spin out an unofficial spin out in the genomic software data management. And great session. I went through the executive summary and some of the bigger one, that's 200 pages, but I was more interested in the mission 4 out of the 5 mission about translation of research and commercialization. And I wanted to have a bit of view about what are you planning to do to make it maybe bolder in terms of getting both the scientists, the PhD, the students, knowing about what spin out means, startups means, because it's very trendy at the moment and having an impact in the short term. Maybe a platform incubator. Also looking at, what EMBL EM is doing and EMBL Ventures. Is there kind of plan to extend that aspect to get more funding? There's billions of pounds of funds that have been raised in the private sector at the moment in life sciences, even more so during the COVID. And I think there will be a missed opportunity not to use the EMBL brand to do that, to invest in technologies in EMBL in all the sites. And just how does it compare with kind of the other tech transfer departments? I mean, I was just looking at the executive summary or kind of the bigger one that EMBL EM, there was only 6 spin-outs out over 5 years that came out, which I feel is not a lot. Or maybe I'm mistaken. And how does it compare with MIT, with Stanford? So all these kind of things. So what's the plan?
We, so I guess, it sounds like this is a discussion we could have on over a coffee for much longer.
Yeah, definitely.
Jessica, Jessica, this is very close to her heart. So I will let her say a couple of words, but we completely want to make sure that this area amplifies in the next 5 years. And, pretty much on board with much of what you said. So Jessica, over to you.
Hi, Abel. So, you probably read in the program that creating this innovation culture internally is really key to what we want to do. The program itself scientifically brings about so many opportunities. We can need to expand from the usual sort of industry space that we work in now, which is mainly pharma, a little bit of agri-tech, but there's so many opportunities when we think about planetary health. And EMBL has a huge chance to contribute here. The science that people do is really, really innovative. And we have a white paper that's sort of solutions for climate change that are proposed there, and be really fantastic to see this develop. So developing this innovation culture, for pre-docs, for postdocs, for anybody really, any staff, that if they have ideas that they should be able to bring it forward. We want to work more with companies, with entrepreneurs, with people who have experience in this, and bring them in, make this gap between sort of science and industry a lot shorter. So this is something that we really want to invest in and grow over the next 5 years. Agree with
Okay, let's have a chat around coffee then, yeah? We encourage both of us, so let's do that.
Okay, great. And then, Julie, you've also had your hand up, I realize, for a very long time. So please, if you have a question for Edith or one of the other speakers, then...
Yes, thank you very much. Great progress. My first time at coffee at EMBL. So I never really made it before, but I'll definitely join some future ones. I was at EMBL between 1998 and 2001. So a while ago, but I'm back in Heidelberg now, and I'm leading the local life science cluster. And very ambitious program of EMBL. Congratulations to all involved. Forgive me for only latching onto a very small part of it. I've heard you say that you have a biobanking core facility planned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And would that be open to all the scientists and academia and industry alike, or what's that?
So this is still a plan. Actually, Nassos is the person to ask about this. Maybe he's going to touch on this later. Nassos, do you want to say a word?
Sure. I think that the two types of biobanking will be biobanking for samples that come through the planetary biology expeditions and keeping those samples. And then there's also some of microbial strain collections and species. But it's not to serve as a big biobank that can distribute things all over the place. It's just to collect things that we're doing experiments at the moment. So this is the capacity that at the moment we foresee.
Okay, so no access to other scientists at this stage. Really? I
think we will try to be as accommodating as possible, but we cannot replace existing biobanks that are there for doing the same things. I mean, Germany has, for example, DSMZ that operates with 200 people personnel, and they have, of course, higher capacities to do some things. Yes. But we'll try to be as open as possible and also give strains and collections to those places that are much better for distributing them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Jessica, can I turn to you now? You're the head of strategy, and I know played a big role working with Edith and many others at EMBL to pull this exciting program together. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges you had in coordinating this across all the different EMBL sites?
Sure. So the challenges, and I would say the exciting opportunities. I think the biggest thing was, Edith had this vision, and everybody was. I think EMBL's fantastic. You charge people with something, and everybody had all of these amazing ideas. Whether we're talking about planetary biology, human ecosystems, microbial ecosystems, and then going on to services, training, and the challenge, I think, was really how to bring it all together to form this coherent, structure or document. How do we put all of this in a way that there's two things. We needed to, EMBL, as brings in, group leaders, and everybody needs to be able to free to do their own research. But at the same time, we have the theme of life in context, ecosystems. So I think it's having that balance where you don't want to be too specific in your plan. You still want the creativity and the freedom that is, a signature of EMBL, coupled with this, big vision, ambition that we want to achieve. So I would say that was really the fun part of trying to put this program together. And then the other part was just bringing it all together. It's not just a scientific program, like I said, there's training, there's innovation and translation in there, there's an outreach and communications, and a whole operational piece, modernizing EMBL, plans for digitalization. So it really is, to me, it was very important that every single person at EMBL felt like they were a part of the program.
That's great. And what excites you personally most about the program?
Now it's I just love the whole program. I have a mixed background in microbiology and evolutionary biology as well. So to me, having this opportunity to study phenotypes in the way that the program spells it out, especially from an evolutionary perspective, is really fascinating and interesting. And I love that, molecular biologists now can go out, and look at the environmental context and then couple that, it's such a great program, because not only does it address fundamental biological questions, but also we get to tackle, or look at things like climate change solutions, or, people are already looking at, how to look at plastic waste, for example. So I'm really excited that, we're now at the implementation phase, and everybody is ready. They've already been going, actually. And now we can actually do this as an organization in conjunction with our many, many collaborators around the world.
So taking that theme of around the world, I think it's fabulous that you're addressing such critical major challenges, global challenges for our societies. And one of the things that we're all inspired about as an alumni society and with Coffee with EMBL is that you see us bringing together people from really globally all around the world. So one of the questions I would have is, do you have a plan or interest in engaging beyond the borders of the EMBL member nations to form productive links and expand your program into other areas of the country out with the direct funders of the EMBL?
So, I think we all know that, science is a global undertaking, right? It's not confined to countries, but we are a member state funded organization. So we do have, a primary mandate there, but, it doesn't mean that the science that we do is restricted to member states. People have collaborators and networks, and of course, as it's naturally happening now, right? We do have to work in a very global way, and some of the challenges that we're trying to address are represented in global bodies. And Edith is on the Science Council for the WHO, for example, right? And, they're interested in looking at things from a more scientific or biological angle as well. So definitely what we'll do also feeds up not only just at a European level, but at, in a global sense as well.
What do you see as the biggest opportunities to inform and excite the public, especially younger people who may be considering in the future careers in science? But where do you see the biggest opportunities there coming out of this program?
So there's many. As we were talking before, there's a huge public engagement outreach angle. I think now with COVID, the public awareness of science, of biology is so much more, right, than how it was 2 years ago. They're seeing proteins on our TV screen. So I think we really have a huge opportunity here. People talk about mRNA, right? And we never had that before. So there, I think we have such a great gateway to talk about the things that we want to do. Right now, climate change is such a big topic, right? Especially in the younger generations, it's something that impacts them. So we have an opportunity there to get the younger generation really involved in science as well through this.
And I think you have many people here in the Alumni Association very keen to help. What role do you think there are for alumni to help you share the excitement and contribute to the program?
Yeah, so many. One definite opportunity is to help us connect to other institutes. We need to connect to the ecologists, the epidemiologists, the engineers, the theoreticians, bringing them in, creating awareness about what we're going to do. And, alumni would have so many contacts and connections. So there it's helping get the word out initially and making the connections where we need to. And then also on the public engagement angle as well, right? So a lot, when we start creating and operating some of these programs, it's really key that alumni are engaged in those sorts of activities as well.
Well, we look forward to helping you with this. Again, I see that there are hands up and fantastic. The first one waiting was Babis Savakis.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Good. Very exciting vision, Edith. I've been a delegate to Council for 12 years, and I've been following the development of EMBL, which is exciting. I have a question regarding the public perception of science. As correctly pointed out, science has been in the forefront during the pandemic, but the other side of this is that many people consider science as having the answers, getting the answers. Scientists have the answers, and they get frustrated when scientists advice about the measures in the pandemic have changed. They say, these people don't know what they're doing. Once they say that masks are important, then they say they're not as important, then back, and so on and so forth. The perception of science as an activity which is dynamic, developing. You get new data, you get new information, new evidence, and you change your views about the world and about what's happening is missing. So EMBL has a long history of and lots of expertise in this Science in Society program. I think I may ask, is this going to be expanded in some way? For example, the alumni could leverage on this, organize Science in Society events in member states, in member countries. Also, EMBL can leverage on its offspring, Elixir, which has many national nodes, each one having a big a network of scientists and being central in data. The question is there going to be, are you thinking of a plan to leverage on these resources, so to speak, to advance public perception of science as a dynamic and not only important, but a dynamic activity which does not have all the answers, and many people think so.
Exactly. Yes. So, yes, we're very keen to, expand our science and society and public engagement program. We need to obviously do this in a coordinated way, but we already had, great sessions or conferences. This last year, we had a session on One Health that brought together many key people. The year before that, I think our main conference was called Our House is Burning, which was all about climate change. So I think coupling EMBL science with these sorts of issues is something that we would definitely do in the new program that will help with the trust in science aspect.
Great. So just before any more questions, Nassos, can I come on to you, please? Thanks again for joining. I know you've been with us before in Coffee with EMBL. You're a group leader and senior scientist in genome biology. So could you tell us a little bit about what excites you most about the opportunities for the new program, and how you see a chance to address some of the really major challenges for society? Like, are we going to run out of antibiotics? Are we going to be able to treat diseases in future that we won't be able to treat if we have microbial resistance to all the current antibiotics? How do you see the big, exciting opportunities?
Good. Thank you, Angus. It's nice to be back. So I'm a bit biased. So what excites me the most of the program is, again, that the program is full about microbes and what microbes play as role for planetary health, but also human health, whether those is microbes that affect humans as pathogens, and we have to have drugs to treat them, or microbes that affect and help us with our health. So for me, this is the most exciting part, going to those microbes, and those microbes are very different from the microbes we studied before in the lab. So it's a huge diversity at a functional level, and it gives a great also opportunity to tap into some of those functions, to use them to solve problems, whether this is to degrade plastic or whether this is to find new molecules to fight microbes that they're pathogenic. So I think there's a lot of room for new discovery as we exploring microbial diversity. Antimicrobial resistance, I think what you touch as a problem, of course, is one of the major problems of our times. I don't think the EMBL program per se will solve it on its own. I don't think that's the goal. And I think it goes also beyond research. It's a much more complex problem that you have to figure out also what is the right economic model to get new antibiotics into the market, and how do you engage public and private funding on that. But I think what EMBL can do is that can start again the discussion. It's great that there's discussion against about antibiotics and how you discover it, because it was something that was not too much research ongoing until a few years back. So one can go back and see what are the new strategies to solve current bottlenecks in developing those molecules, but also understand how you develop molecules that are more difficult to get resistance on. And I think there's plenty of basic and fundamental research that can be done on that area. And some of us at EMBL are already doing that, but I think as part of the new program, there's opportunity to team up also with other institutes and try to see what we can do for some of those big challenges of our times.
Okay, great. Roger, you've had your hand up for some time. Would you like to ask a question to one of the speakers?
So, first of all, I'm in a similar situation that Julia is. I never joined the EMBL Coffee. And as I said in the beginning, maybe not everybody has been present. I left EMBL in 1999. I spent 4 years from 1995 to 1999. But this is amazing. This is exciting. And from now on, any new EMBL Coffee will have a fixed place in my calendar. The thing now kind of seen from more of a bird's perspective, what is most amazing for me is how the language has changed. So there's a head of strategy. I think EMBL has never been an ivory tower, right? Maybe in 1995, some corners, one could have called them small ivory towers. But I think it would be wrong to put that label on EMBL even some 30 years ago. But this is something which impresses me, this change in perspective. And the other thing, which is a bit related to that, and it has been raised several times, sometimes using the term citizen science, sometimes public perception of science. I think this is something of concern because I personally believe that the number of people on this planet believing that Charles Darwin was wrong is constantly increasing. And a certain fraction of those people, I think they are entirely lost. There's just no way to bring them back. But if we can demonstrate to the general public that, I don't know, molecular biology or even gene therapy, I mean, I'm representing a client who is very active and very successful in gene therapy. So if we could reach out to the public and demonstrate that all these things are not an arcane art with some, I don't know, with some mean intentions, I think this could then have an overall positive impact on public perception of science. And also, I mean, I also know of cases where companies active in the field of biotechnology had difficulties to find a place in Germany because whenever there were plans to put up the sites in a certain town or province, protests would arise. So I think these are things of major concern. The other thing I wanted to say is, as regards to startups, it's interesting, as one colleague has said, that only 6 startups matured during a period of 5 years. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily view it as a deficiency, but it is something of concern. There are many, many reasons. Maybe the venture capital scene is not so lively or equipped with so much money as it is, for example, in the United States. This is one element. Maybe there's a general skepticism as regards commercialization of science or patenting of inventions. I mean, interesting is 10 years ago, I gave a talk to PhD students from EMBL. And after talking to people, I decided to shift a bit focus in my presentation. And I think I talked something like half an hour about my own curriculum, because I spent many, many years in science and just very late and moved into the patent field. So I went through all this transformation and I asked myself, is this treason? Is this something weird to commercialize certain discoveries? So I personally believe you are in good hands with EMBL. Also, that the team of EMBL has grown significantly all over the years. But I mean, if there's an interest, then I'm an alumnus. If there's an interest, I could always, in synchronization with EMBL, I could also give a talk to interested people and give some insights and maybe also how startup formation can be facilitated further. Last comment, because also antibiotic resistance has been addressed several times. Every now and then I look into the major journals like Nature Science, New England Journal of Medicine, and The Lancet. In one of these, there was a publication of a patient in Belgium who was a victim of a terrorist attack. And after 4 days in hospital, she got an infection by a really terrible bacterium. And what in the end facilitated the cure was a contribution from this institute in Tiflis, I do know, in Georgia. And I do not recall exactly now the name of the institute, but what they have is a bank of bacteria, and for a significant fraction of these bacteria, they have phages already ready, and they're also capable of mutating and artificially fine-tuning these phages. And this was an important contribution. So is anybody aware of this institute? Are there any links between EMBL and that institute?
I don't know, is there a quick comment? I don't know, Jessica, if you or Edith, if you already know of that.
I can take this. So this is this is an institute that has been going on with phage therapy for decades. So also as part of the Soviet Union, where they were there, and phage therapy is older than antibiotics, but there's still a lot of things to learn to make it basically something that would work less anecdotally than one case every now and then. So there are several things to make it broader. Yeah, but people are back interested on phage therapy. This is clear that there's much more interest than there was a few years back. And a lot of people linked to the institute in Georgia.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Roger. I'm sure we'll take you up on your offer in future events. I'm very conscious that Edith has to leave shortly, and I just wanted to come back. And Edith, before we talk more about the program, I'm very keen to come to Rainer and hear more about the exciting developments in the scientific services. But on a personal level, you're amongst friends. Some of the things I'm sure we'd like to know are, first of all, how have you found your first couple of years as Director General? And, what's your reflections on the challenges of managing and leading such a complex organization, especially through the challenging situation of funding a new program? How are you still alive?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ajay. I often ask myself. It's always good to rise up to challenges with friends and colleagues, and actually the three people you see here on the screen have been totally instrumental. So, the few minutes I can catch of Nassos or Rainer or Jessica or other people in the organization make it all worthwhile. So it hasn't been easy. It's been 3 years, actually, 2 of which were spent in a pandemic. But it was definitely worth it. And it's not over yet. But it is quite challenging. But, EMBL is worth it.
I think that's a great way to put it, that EMBL's worth it. And I think your alumni community obviously clearly think that as well, which is why we are so keen to stay engaged and to come back and join you and try to help you with these endeavors.
Absolutely. And we count on you for that. So.
Good. Well, please do. And we know that we're
I'll
here.
Stay on for a few more minutes. I just have to leave you at 5:30 my time, but I want to hear Rainer.
Absolutely. And in fact,
his responses.
Roger actually really did a good job of introducing Rainer in a way, because one of the things that I think, one of the many things that is exciting and inspirational about EMBL is the fantastic scientific services that are met with many technologies that are developed and pioneered, and then the training opportunities that brings. So, Rainer, thank you for agreeing to join us. Can you tell us, first of all, what excites you about the future scientific program and how you and your colleagues can help to contribute to it?
No, first of all, hello, everybody. It's very exciting to be here. I think that the program as a whole excites me from every end, I must say. But what got me most excited is actually the planetary biology, and of that, actually the expedition that we are planning to cruise around the European coasts in order to sample water and land samples in order to understand how environmental changes can actually change mechanisms and actually biodiversity. And I have to say, I felt in the past 2.5 years like I felt in my mid-20s and during my PhD, learning as a physicist every day something new, when actually getting in touch with the planetary biology and with these ecology questions, and being really fascinated how many new mechanisms are there to be explored on the molecular level. And I think EMBL has actually the opportunity with all the colleagues that are participating actually very nicely all across our member states that we have contacted in order to explore such a few mechanisms, with eventually the idea to find ways to improve our environment or understand it much more. So I must say this was one of my most excitement. And of course, as a director of scientific core facilities and services, the setup of mobile services, I must say, when this idea came up, I was fascinated from the very beginning. Imagine you come with a truck or a van and then bring technology to the place and do experiments that can only be done there, because the sample will not be able to move to our place where we can analyze, but we actually help them to the scientists to do this is very exciting to me. And I must say what also makes me very happy that all the scientists we are talking to, and hopefully also convince you all that they are very excited about this possibility to exploit this. Right, and we will hopefully develop it much further and actually beyond the expedition that we have been doing this, and eventually open a completely new way of doing science, and eventually a new way of science selection.
I think it's great to hear your enthusiasm. I was about to say still, and the reason for saying that is I don't know if you remember, Rainer, but many years ago, you and I collaborated when we were both in Heidelberg, it was super exciting and inspirational for me to suddenly discover you could micro-inject, HeLa cells and put new probes into them. And it really opened my eyes to the power of inventing new technologies to enable exciting new experiments. I mean, that's one of the things that just, I just think it is inspirational and exciting.
And Angus, it was also equally inspirational for me to learn about the biological questions in molecular biology and see how technology can help, at least in parts, to solve them, right?
So that's the best sort of synergy that EMBL can catalyze. I hope Edith is still here listening to that. So given that we agree about that, what opportunities do you see now, Reinhard, for where are the next low-hanging fruit or even high-hanging fruit that you see? Where are the next generation of exciting technological developments that would enable experiments we can't do today?
This is a very challenging question for me. I mean, experiments that we can do. But to be honest, I think eventually these mobile services, honestly, they will be enabling experiments that cannot be done because many samples, we know it best actually from Carbajo's expedition, you collect these samples and you can not bring them at home because you cannot preserve them. So you have to do the experiment at the place. And but okay, the technologies need to be advanced. You need to do imaging. You need to do multi-omics with that one, right? And you eventually need to do also ultrastructural analysis. So the techniques to bring there are not naive. I mean, they should be actually at the highest level. And I think therefore, I think doing this will enable really completely new experimental themes and also completely new experimental insights. But in general, I mean, I think we are also developing, or there's new developments in technology that we can do a little bit nowadays already. But I think what will come in the future is actually ultrastructural microscopy, cryo-electron microscopy in situ, in order to do structural biology in organisms, in the whole organismal context. I think there's a lot of data analysis required there. There's a lot of technology advances there, but I'm looking really forward to see this, that structural biology can even be done in the whole cell or the whole organism context.
Are there any recent technologies that you've seen being developed outside of EMBL that you're keen to bring on campus?
Oh yeah, I mean, we have been doing the imaging center, for example. We have been bringing in actually technology in super resolution microscopy that people like Stefan Hell, also an alumnus, has been developing. And I mean, amazing. I mean, I would say 10, 15 years ago, I would say we have been doing quite good microscopy. And now we can do it 100 times better in terms of resolution. And I think we are moving with the light microscopes even into terrains that we can do structural biology and eventually see protein complexes as they're changing their conformation in real time. And then the technology is called MinFlux. I mean, and I think in the imaging center we have been setting up a service like that. And we would like to improve this accordingly. And I think this is a technology that comes from outside, has not been developed at the EMBL. But I think it may now flourish, and we hopefully actually together with Stefan, we actually will move this forward.
There's a great quote that Jonathan has put from the late Sidney Brenner. Progress in science depends on new techniques, new discoveries, and new ideas, probably in that order. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I tell you, I mean, you you need better eyes. Yeah, you need to see deeper. I mean, I would fully agree with that, and I think I have to say, I mean, also most progress that we have been doing in science has come with that. Absolutely.
I think we've been, if anything, victims of our own success, and that the time has run away with us. I hardly noticed. It was so late already. We've been online for 90 minutes. I'm deeply grateful, as I'm sure we all are, to Edith, Nassos, Jessica, and Rainer for sharing their time so generously with us and for giving us this glimpse of the new EMBL program. We're extremely excited to see that, and wish you every success, and hope that we can help you in the Alumni Association. It was wonderful to see you all for the first time this year, and I think we're all looking forward to an increasingly COVID-free 2022, and to getting back to taking forward what we all enjoy doing, and hopefully to meeting up again in person before too long. So thanks, everyone. Great to see you, and we'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Soon.